Yo, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to The Life of a Businessman. My name's Mr. Heka, and today's podcast is featuring Lino Hola. If you don't know who Lino Hola is, I'll put his name in the description, but owner and founder of Men's Medicine. I've also done business with this man for 5+ years. He's a really good friend of mine, and he's doing massive things out there in the community, in the mental health space, in the breathwork space. I'll make sure I put all his links below. And as per normal, this podcast does not have any sponsors, but it does have shout outs. So today's shout out is Men's Medicine. If you don't know who the Men's Medicine community is, also a community I was part of for 5 years. I'm supporting men and women through all aspects of life. Make sure you go check them out, support them, follow the page. Other than that, let's get into the podcast. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Life of a Businessman. I'm sitting here with Lino Hola, or Shifa Lino Hola if you are from Tonga. But if you're from Australia, you just call him Lino. Men's Medicine, and we'll get into all of the juice and that as well. But I just wanted to say thank you very much, Lino, for being here. I appreciate you and appreciate your time.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for having us on, and congratulations on our first episode of this new podcast.
Yeah, thank you very much. You were actually the last episode that I ever did on the old podcast, so I thought it was only fit that we kicked it back off with you as well, because we've done quite a few podcasts over the years, and we've had an extensive journey. We've traveled to many cities and countries and been all over the place and seen a lot of people. But essentially today, I wanted to start off with, how are things and how are you as a new father to be, and obviously, what you're doing right now. Maybe just fill us in a little bit for those who don't know.
All right, for those that don't know the journey that I've been on and that we've shared, Heka and I, we started off with this crown that's right behind me right now. We basically built the beginning of Men's Medicine, which is basically a men's women support and empowerment movement, which started off specifically just with men. So when Heka and I first started, just men, and we basically walked around Australia and New Zealand, right, walking with men, and we grew and we evolved. I guess our business journey together changed, and over that time, our business model had changed, and since our separation, it's changed once again and even more. And I guess the nature of Men's Medicine is it's this ever evolving, growing thing that never changes, never stops changing and evolving. And what we started off with was with walks, it evolved into workshops, then programs, retreats. Now we do trainings. And as of like 2 days ago, I've just branched off and expanded and started a new business that I guess is more accessible, because the things we do at Men's Medicine, as I said before, is in the mental health and personal development space, which is really the deeper end of working on yourself. But what about the rest of the people? So we've just built another business, started another business called the Breathe Room, TBR for short. And that one is a breathwork system built specifically for the fitness industry. Our intention there is to put breathwork into the hands of the people. And that, if you thought about it as a spectrum, that's kind of the people that we're serving. And it's been a big year. The year that I've done the most programs, retreats, not so much events like what we used to do in the beginning. It's beyond that. And I've also become a father as well.
Congrats, bro, on that as well. So I actually just wanted to get on here, firstly, to say thank you very much. I was thinking about this yesterday when I was in the shower. I was like, I've got a podcast to play on tomorrow. But if we hadn't have done what we had have done, I wouldn't have been able to have this level of growth and understanding of myself. So those I think we were like 4 years, out there doing our thing. It was really just recreating myself on the regular. Like, we went to so many workshops, so many events, worked with so many different people. And for me, I was able to obviously witness you as well, not only grow as a father, but as a business owner, as a coach, and as a person. And I was thinking this morning, the very first interaction that I had with you was a night where we obviously had a ceremony, and I didn't know you. That's how obviously Men's Medicine started. And I was thinking back to that time, and I think that was before, where I don't think that you were, as confident as a speaker back then as what I seen you grow in that, like, there's like a 4-month period after those few workshops. And I was witness to you, I guess, finding your voice a little bit, in that transition period. And for me, witnessing that and then seeing the impact that that has on the community now has been, it's been really nice to watch. You know what I mean? So just kudos to you there. And I maybe want to break down that bit because this isn't probably conversations that you may have had or people may have not understood. But if you could break down that, because Lino Hola is known for, the voice and, the output and the energy that you bring to the room. Where did that start and where did that come from?
It's interesting that you say that because I only really knew that my voice was a thing about a year or two before we started men's medicine. And it wasn't until we really opened up and started doing men's medicine, as you were just speaking into it just then, my desire to speak in front of people wasn't because I want to speak in front of people. I want to serve people. So depending on what's next, and you've said one of the names you've always called me is Uncle Sauce, is because you can put me right. And I guess that's something that I really pride myself on, my ability to be with anyone, anywhere, at any time. And depending what's needed, I will always do what's needed. Right. So if somebody needs to speak, I'll speak. If something needs to be said, I'll say it. If something needs to be done, I'll do it. I'm happy to be that person. And in that process, I've started to realize, and I guess for those that are hearing my voice right now, the depth, the sound of my voice has refined and matured and developed over time. But what I come to realize was earlier in the piece was the impact that my voice had on people.
Yeah, and I've been witness to that as well, and it's traveled a long way, and I think over the years you've really witnessed it and understood it on like by yourself as well. But yeah, I always used to say, I'm like, I'm just going to throw him in the sauce, let on like, where are we going? He was like, I don't know. I'll just show up and speak, let's get the platform ready, wherever it is, I'll be there and do it. And one of the first ones that comes to mind was when we went to New Zealand and we went to the youth prison. The youth prison was a really interesting, I guess, day, not only for myself, that those little kids are out there making fun of me. It was a funny, interesting day. And I was thinking about that this morning where we've been on, quite a few journeys. I'm like, shit, we've been to some spots and influenced some people. But for me, I just want to, like, how was that day for you at the youth detention center? That was an interesting one.
It was an interesting one. And I'm not sure if you remember that the security guards there or the detention officers said after we delivered some breath work was, how did you do that? They never stayed still for 20 minutes ever. Right. And I
Right.
guess the nature of breath work is that it has the ability to change state. So in that 20 minutes, we were able to capture their attention. And I was sort of this morning, you asked earlier, how's my morning been? And I went down to Cold Nips this morning, and they're basically a company that do a connection piece. It's a meeting, sort of community. They go down to the beach, they have a swim, they go get a coffee after. Now they're doing 100 dips for 100 days to raise $1 million with 100,000 people, right? And I asked them this morning, how are you going? And they said, we didn't realize how hectic or chaotic it would be because we have to show up every single day. Which reminds me of at the beginning of our journey was that's how we operated. We would wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. We would go deliver. We'd operate off like 2-3 hours sleep. We'd wake up the next day and we'd go do it again. Right.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of business and building anything, I think that level of commitment is what's needed.
Yeah, exactly. I want to touch on that as well. I don't think, especially in early days of what we were doing, a lot of people didn't realize the level of sacrifice it took, especially when we were going to New Zealand. I remember there was a couple of events that we went to. We hadn't been to sleep back to back. Like we left Australia, traveled to New Zealand, flew to Auckland, drove to wherever we were, Hamilton and all these spots. We didn't get there till 3, 4 a.m. in the morning, and then we're having to get up at 4. Like I remember we laid down. I think it might have been Hamilton. We got there in the bus, laid down, like kind of like chatted for a little bit, and then everyone's alarm went off, and we went to the event, and that was that showed, I guess, the level of commitment that we were had to have to be able to go out there and be of service, because not everyone's willing to do that. It was off our own skin and back and getting out there, helping out the community as well. And sometimes that's what it takes, but it is exhausting. And obviously I witness, not only, myself, but everyone else in the team, like have a level of, exhaustion as well. It definitely tests relationships, mine and yours, especially. We've had our agreements and stuff, but we've always been able to, disagree healthily. And I think that's what's, it takes that kind of level of commitment, maturity, and understanding as well, being able to do something like this. And, for you as well, for me to witness you as well, to keep doing this over the years and years and years and keep showing up. It is taxing, it is exhausting. And I think right now, you're in that spot where you're like, how do you reach more people and make more impact without having to run yourself into the ground, having that sacrifice from your family, and I guess essentially be of service to even more. So what's that look like for you, and what have you learned over the years about that?
Great question. One of the things that I'm reminded of is something you said to me back in 2020. And it was, brother, we got to develop a workshop. And I said, how do you mean? And you go, we can't walk forever. And I thought to myself, yeah, I can. I could just keep walking, right? Now, many years on, the only reason I'm able to stay in the game and still walk with people is through progression, right? Is that through that time, we went from walks to workshops, men's workshops, couples workshops. We've done women's workshops, expanding further beyond that, programs, retreats. And now we actually, 5 years on, we're in our sixth year now, actually passing the medicine on, teaching other people. And now we're just about to start our third round of facilitators, right? So it's not just me anymore. And I can't tell you how grateful I am for that. Grateful for you for even saying that, because it always sticks with me, right? I said this to the guys this morning when I sat with them. They're sharing about how every day they dip, they jump in the car, they drive to the next location, which might be 3 hours away, which might be a day's drive away. I think they said one drive is going to be 18 hours, right? And I said, look, as long as your business model is built to support everything, the impact that you want to, create, there's people that are always able to pay. And then there is people, you do things out of the goodness of your heart, right? They don't really reward you. And I said, in the early days when we started, we didn't make money from men's medicine. Everything we made went straight back in, right? And then that would be a breaking point. Eventually, it's going to happen. And I said, I lived off my coaching. That was it, right? I didn't make money from men's medicine. It's only now we have these bigger offerings that I'm able to not only support my family, but support the community as well. Once my needs are met, we just put it back into the business to expand. So being sustainable, having a sustainable business model is what allows me to only do like 2, 3, 4 walks a year now, where before I would do, 3, 4 times that.
Every weekend.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why I was like, I'm not walking anymore. I'm over this. We're walking every weekend. I was like, I'm exhausted.
I still walk in the same boots.
You still got the same jacket? You still got that stick.
I still got the same walking stick. I still got the same jacket. Actually, I've had to tuck it away. I think I'm a little bit bigger. Muscle maturity starting to kick in, and then the shrinking of the washing. So the jacket's a little bit snug. I still walk with the same boots, the same jacket, the same bag that you bought me. The same walking, the same polo shirt, right? That you still got my name on it. I still do that, but I only do that 2, 3 times a year, because the other offerings are, that's where the real impact is made. So what I say to all our facilitators, if you can build a business model that allows you to have all your needs met, you can do it every day. You can really build a beautiful life.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember this. Whether we can't walk forever, I remember when we were sitting in the rain, because every event, most rains, it was pissing rain. I'm sitting there, there's all these people, there's 70, 80 people there. It's raining. We're trying to find some ground for them. It's wet. And the Breathwork office, I'm trying to set up speakers and shit. You're doing your thing. And I'm just sitting there in the rain with my hoodie on. I'm like, man, we ain't walking. This is like, I can't be out here standing in the friggin' pouring rain every weekend in some other state, some other country. Like, it's not sustainable over a long period of time. And I think that's probably, one of your biggest lessons. I was always trying to, and we always are back and forth. I'm like, let's stop walking. We need to do online. And it's just been nice to, I guess, essentially see a transition, because I know the impact that you'll make, by being able to reach more people on a mass scale as well. So, and as well, getting your time back, the Leno I know that's got time with his family, time to, have his downtime and stuff like that. When you come out and deliver, you're essentially delivering such a better service to everyone, because I'd seen you at rundown and I've seen you at 80% running good. And the level of execution was, obviously different. But as you say, you always show up and you always speak. But my question to you is, what's one of the biggest business lessons that you've learned throughout men's medicine and through your whole coaching career? Would you say?
I think the business model part is super important. That the business model has to be sustainable. It has to be built for growth. It has to be built for scale. It has to be built for service. It can't solely be built for service. That'll just burn you out, right? The year that we stopped doing business together, I think I did over 60 events that year.
You did.
I don't know anyone that does more workshops and events, than what we do. I think I'll always have a high level of work ethic, but the lesson that I learned is build a model that not only serves the people, but also serves and supports your family. And then the lesson that I've learned this year is taking care of my health, right? So I basically have done, from my years as a personal trainer, where I just go back-to-back clients, I've done the same with coaching and programs. I've taken it from outdoors or out there on the gym floor or out there doing our workshops to doing the same thing here. And I would just go back to back with clients or back to back with coaching calls. And it's ended up really breaking my body down. And I guess for those that do online work or have online businesses, I don't think humans were designed to be sitting for long periods of time. And if I'm not sitting here behind the desk doing online coaching calls or programs, I'm sitting in the car driving to retreats or events or that sort of thing. And I've gone a decade and a half on the gym floor, working with people on my feet, working with my hands, where now sitting, laptop, phone, car, all of these sorts of things. So it's really sort of breaking my body down and taking care of my health. I've had a few shoulder injuries, back injuries this year, and taking care of your health. So business model, health, without these two things, you're going to burn out. You're going to crash and burn.
Another one, because we're business lessons, life lessons. What about a life lesson for you? What's a life lesson? What do you think? I know, obviously, a lot about you, but for people that don't know, Lionel, what's a life lesson or something that you've learned over time that you always carry and take with you?
The relationships are more important than anything. You could be, one of the biggest things that I learned through our time with men's medicine was that the team is just as important as the people. And that quite often I found myself fixated on service and the community, right? And throughout, as I've gone, the importance of the team, the importance of my family has really, stood out. So I make the effort. My daughter turned 18. We had a great time in Bali recently, and it was great just to be with her. Just got back from Bali again. So I basically went, spent time with my daughter, came back to drop my daughter off, pick my wife up, go back to Bali, spent time with her. It's great to be able to take my work with me, but none of it matters if I can't share it with the people that I love the most.
Yeah, it's something I actually took that from you as well, and it's you want to go far, go together, and it's something that has always stuck with me as well. And it's just, regardless of money or business or anything like that, if you're doing it alone, that's it's a sad old day as well. And the team matters, the people matter, and I guess that's for the journey it's long and it's hard and it's rough. You've got people with you that support you and that you look after and you nourish and share. I think your chances of increasing and going a lot further are always going to be better as well. So I always took that from you. It's like you want to go far, go together. Something you always emphasize as well. We, I was thinking about this morning actually. Workshops, because we've been to workshops ourselves, and you've took me to a few myself. Were there any pivotal moments or workshops or events that you went to that I guess catapulted your personal development or your understanding of yourself, or really kind of opened the doorway up for you?
When I very first started doing my first NLP training, that's what really sort of put me through personal development at the beginning. And my intention that year was to do a whole bunch of things. So that was the first thing. Then when going to the workshops, I've done a couple of workshops, but specifically going to Bridge, found my voice there, realized what my voice was, and then extreme leadership, which you've done as well. That one there, aside from all of the education I'd already done, that event, those two events really pieced together all the education that I'd learned and presented to me in such a way that felt alive. Right, which is why I took, I was like, brothers, we got to go to these things. So NLP opened the door. Breath work has been this lifetime obsession that I've had ever since, lifelong obsession ever since I came across it. And I shared this morning with people. A lot of time people might think that I'm the breathwork guy, but breathwork is just the tool that I use to get people to move. Right? There's things that this is the tool that I use to collapse time, to bridge the gap. Otherwise, before that, everything was basically coaching and talk therapy. Right? So I would say the beginning was NLP, the experience at the workshops, but breath work has been the thing.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen you kind of go through those phases and level up over the years as well. So it's been nice to watch. For those who don't know, Leno actually took me to my first bridge in extreme leadership. Maybe, yeah, actually, I will say it anyway. Leno took me to this event one time where I had to get my fucking dick out at this event. It was actually one of the best events that I've ever been to, strangely, because it was called extreme. We won't give it away in case someone else wants to go there one day. But if you do see that workshop come up, obviously go and jump in it. But that was one of those events where I left and you were there facilitating. And I remember I was like, what the fuck is he taking me to, man? I was in a room standing there naked with 80 other people at the Marriott. And I remember I was like, man, this guy's taking me to too many fucked up places. And anyway, it actually worked out. And it was one of those really good, events. And it got me out of my box. And it was just one of those things that I guess reshaped my reality and understanding of myself that week was, I nearly went home after the last day. I was like, these guys are fucking with my head. I'm going. You know what I mean? I tried to get out of there. I was like, I'm going back to the Gold Coast. But yeah, maybe what was that experience like for you?
I think it was, I remember what it did for me. And basically, I guess the pathway that I'd taken myself through when we were like, for those that are listening, please understand that when we started men's medicine, there really wasn't anything like this going on. There really wasn't big communities that were doing this sort of stuff. So considering that we came together, not because we're like, oh, we're going to start this thing, right? I shared what I'd had in mind, right? And we started that first night together. But what it evolved into, it wasn't like we had this business plan, right? It was this organic thing that unfolded by itself. So when I was thinking about how can I support you guys so that we're all on the same page, the only ideas that logically came to mind were the things that I'd done for myself. Going through NLP, going through those workshops, that's why we went, right?
Yeah.
This will put us on the same mindset, the same language, the same level of development and consciousness. And because we're already out there doing it, this will bring us all up to speed together. So when you guys were all out there, I understood what would be involved. I just prayed that it would work out. I didn't know what would unfold. I didn't know what would happen. And I feel like it would be fair to say, that the presence of all of us there wasn't something that had been experienced before. You think about, we had a lot of Polynesian brothers that were in there, right? And it's, that was all connected to men's medicine.
Yeah, all of them.
All of them.
I think there was like 8 or 9 of us there at that same time.
Yeah.
Because it was a big group and definitely, like you said, there wasn't any of that, like this kind of stuff moving around then. We were just out there trying. There was no like business model where like, okay, sit down, this is the structure, this is the plan. I remember the first time how we ended up going to other towns and cities. People were just messaging us on social media like, is this in Melbourne? We're like, no. And they're like, oh, can you come? And we're like, I don't know, like how many people have you got? And it
Yeah.
just evolved from then. I guess having that mixture of like Polynesian guys, like essentially in there doing so much, like I guess work on themselves was very unusual as well. A lot of the coaches, a lot of the people hosting events were always like, what are all these Polynesian dudes doing at an event like this workshop? So I feel like it definitely kicked off a lot of, it sparked a lot of flames, and essentially that's what would, I'd attribute a lot of that early growth to as well, because a lot of those guys in those communities seen it happen, seen a lot of people, guys like these stereotypical dudes going and doing events like this, and they're like, well, if they're there, like, I might as well go as well. So that was, I think everyone in that whole group grew, 10 years in 6 months, because it was such a, eye-opening experience where we got to, unpack, our whole personality and rebuild it, days and days, many times over.
100%. Look, I remember running into Christmas. I ran into Wah at Christmas, right? And what he said to me was, he thought we were together for 3 years. I said, brother, we were together for 6 months. And he goes, no way. I said, but what we condensed into that 6 months was like what people would condense into 3 years, right?
Yeah.
Because if you think about the amount of life that we jammed into the times that we've shared together, right? Like this would take most people like multiple years. And I'm reminded of a conversation I had this morning, and I said, someone's talking about breathwork, talking to me about the event that they run, their business. I said, how long have you guys been doing this? And he said, like a year and a half. And I'm like, oh, that's right. We've been here for years. This is our 6th year now, right? There wasn't anything going on 6 years ago.
No.
Right. So
Feels nothing.
like the truth is, for a lot of people, a lot of movements, a lot of people, we somewhat paved the way. And the way that I kind of look at it is that if you think back to our very first video, and if you think about what people would have been looking at, you're looking at very masculine men, right? Doing things that you wouldn't expect. And what I sort of attribute to that is the permission slip that gives the people, right? That for most themselves to get vulnerable, to open up, to actually dive in. It's like, if these guys can do it, if these guys are doing it, well, then maybe I can actually work on myself.
Yeah. It definitely opened the door. And sometimes they just say someone's got to go first. And it's that first dude. And as we know, we had people come to the workshops that were like, oh, I used to hate on you guys. We weren't, and then they're like, sneak in like into the event. I'm like, well, so good. Like, you can be here. But, they were open and honest. So, like, I seen this from afar. I didn't like it. I was, objective against it. And they were honest with us and themselves, saying, hey, I was just obviously scared to come here because I was going to have to unpack all my shit and be seen. So
Yeah.
I feel like that. And what about, there was even guys that had come to the events, stayed in the car and left. And then, a month later, come back and again, they're like, yeah, I was here last month, but I was in the car hiding and I didn't get out and I went home. That was one of those things that I guess really opened my eyes up to how much his work was needed. One, and then the level of impact, two, and then three, I think that essentially not only, helped me, but, probably you as well, where it made me understand that no matter what you're going to do, right, there's always going to be people that either hate on what you do, disagree with what you do. As where for a long time, I didn't understand that. We copped a lot of slack in that early days because there was nothing like this, right? And I always had to stop and think, I'm like, okay, if someone's going to, hate on us or put us down for what we're doing, we're actually having people come to us and say, hey, you actually saved my life. I wouldn't have been here without this event. I wouldn't have been there. The chances of them hating on me for doing, another business or going out and trying to look after myself or whatever it's going to be pretty high. So I'm like, if I'm still going to cop hate for that, for me, that just put a lot of things in perspective. And I think it helped me with my growth moving forwards about understanding the people and, that you're always going to get some kind of slack for anything that you do. It was, it kind of opened my eyes a lot as well. Yeah, we had to definitely wear a lot of shit in those early stages where people were not receptive of what we're doing.
I think that they didn't know what we'd seen. They didn't know, I knew what we were witnessing, right? What we were experiencing and the impact that we were making. So any of the noise to me, like, meant nothing. It meant nothing to me because we knew what was happening in real time, in real life with the people that were actually in front of us. And it wasn't just a couple of people. Like when we first started doing walks, we're talking like 50 people, 50 men, right? Eating at dawn, finishing at sunset, right? That were long days. And remember, it wasn't until we went to New Zealand where you and I went did recon, and it took us an hour to get through recon. And we're like, what have we been doing? Why have we been walking 20 kilometers. We just did 10K and that was enough. So I learned a really valuable lesson from that one. I guess touching on the few things that you said before, what it really highlighted as well was it's actually how hard it is for most people to work on themselves. And what I'll speak into is my new business relationship. My new business partners actually wanted to work with us back when we started doing couples workshops in 2021. It's 2024 now, right? Right. Now him and his wife, they own a company called Clean Health. It is a 9-figure business, right? They are one of Australia's biggest and, large in the world as well. Health and fitness education providers, right? So you can get your Cert 3, Cert 4, nutrition. They do physique coaching. They've got world, renowned professionals on there as well. Lane Norton, who's got his PhD, Hattie Little, who else? Sebastian Oreb, who is Australian strength coach. And basically, I'd seen the events and it happened over the weekend. He was here on the Gold Coast. And I thought to myself, I think we could do something here. The next day I'm in the gym. He walks in the gym and I had a giggle to myself. I only said to myself the day before. And I was like, Dave McDonald, Clean Health. And I had a little giggle. I went and just started doing my workout, doing my deadlifts. He comes up, taps me, and he goes, Lino Hola, Men's Medicine. I said, yes, Dave McDonald, Clean Health. And he goes, brother, I love your work. I was actually supposed to come to one of your events a couple of years back, but I was in my deep, dark night of the soul, and I just couldn't come, right? Now, 3 years later, here I am. We're going into business together, right? All those years back, he was supposed to come to one of our events, but it was too hard, right? When you think about what we were just saying before, how difficult it is for people to work on themselves, even harder when you're working on your relationship. Do you remember our first couples workshop? It halved that morning. Men were dropping like flies. Let's have 8 couples and it cut down to 4 because 4 of the men just actually couldn't show up.
Yeah. That was a big one too at events. Like that was a massive one as well. Like it was not, I think we were used to it because we were in it, but seeing it from a outside perspective, and it's definitely hard for people to show up, especially when you don't know what's going to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to start diving into your own personal shit in front of people. That's when everything's on show. There is no hiding. There is no, you cannot hide there. But that's where all the magic happens as well. Can we speak on the new business?
Yes. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah, tell me more. So tell me, I want to know more about it now. Obviously, I didn't know if we could obviously put it out there. Is anything officially out there? Can we find you anywhere? If not, I can obviously direct everyone to the Men's Investment page. I'll make sure I put it in the links below and make sure that we can obviously direct people your way. But when can we maybe expect this to start rolling out?
We're currently doing a beta test tour through the month of August. That'll finish early September. We'll do an official tour throughout the end of October through all of November, and we'll launch. We're scheduled to release on Black Friday. So the whole purpose behind it has been around, you know me, I'm always thinking about solutions. How can we help people better, and how can we help more people? How can we make it more accessible? If you think about men's medicine, it's very deep, the stuff that we do there. Not everyone is ready for that. Also, not everyone needs it. And lastly, not everyone wants to do that, right? So basically what the thought that was coming to my mind is, if everyone knew how to self-regulate themselves, I think the world would be a different place, right? If you had the skills, if you had the tools to help self-regulate your own nervous system when you find yourself dysregulated, heightened, hyper-aroused, right? And you can help downshift and self-regulate yourself. If everyone had that tool, I think that we'd be able to live in a very different reality. So that's been something that I've been tinkering on, and I shared it with one of my facilitators. He's an exercise physiologist. I said, I'm building this breathing room at this warehouse. So I've got somewhere to breathe my clients. And I said, wouldn't it be great all gyms had that, right? Just like you book into a yoga class or a Pilates class, right? That there was a breathwork class on the timetable and you could attend it. So you didn't have to wait for an event on the weekends, right? Because the challenge is right now, you're not really sure what you're getting. So he said, bro, I'm in. I was like, okay, cool. So we've been tinkering on this for like the last 2 years. And then when I ran into Dane, he said, sent me a message when I was in the Mentor Wise, and he said, brother, when do you land back in Oz? We need to impact lives on scale. And I said, brother, you're talking my language. Tell me more. And he said, basically, after we'd met, he kind of hadn't been the same, right? Kind of need to listen to his calling, and it's about impacting lives in a different way. I said, before we keep, and you know me, I like to breathe, right? After breathing, we're different. I said, before we carry this conversation on further, let me fly down. We'll breathe together and we can talk more. So we did that. And then we started fleshing open, some thoughts, some ideas. We talked about building a breathwork accreditation certification for personal trainers and coaches. Then I shared with him the timetable idea of having it in all gyms so it's more accessible to more people more often. And he said, I actually think we need to go business. So that's what we're doing, because this is a blue ocean idea, meaning there's no one in the ocean. It's just us. This current thing doesn't exist, right? And I guess the reason why it doesn't exist, if you think about all the different ways that you can experience breath work, I believe that people have put this in the too hard basket. But you know me, I don't think anything's too hard.
No,
right?
definitely not.
There's a way. There's a way. So I've been developing, tinkering, refining our methods and these formulas and the system. So I built a breathwork system, myself and my exercise physiologist business partner, a breathwork system for the fitness industry so that the public, the community can access breathwork on a more regular basis. Because currently the only ways you can access it is you work with a breathwork coach or if you attend an event. And I'm like, you know what? We're making people come to us. How about if we build a system that's built for the people? So that's what we're doing.
I just think having that in any accessible to people is going to make a massive difference. One, because we've spoken about this too. Like, how do we get it to more people? I think that's where you really, I guess, step into your calling as well and start to make a massive impact. Because as we know, we've seen it on smaller scale. 80 kind of 150 people. Having a workshop or event like that. But hey, let's make this accessible to everyone. I really feel like that's where you're going to make the biggest impact and the biggest difference. Maybe early days on this, but where would you like to see this go? And I guess essentially, put it out there to the universe. What do you want to see happen for this? Because I like seeing this, because now I get to come on here in another year and then break it down.
Well, if you think about this industry, really is one of the most easiest ways and accessible ways for anyone to work on themselves, right? I don't feel that great about myself. I'm going to go, maybe I'm out of shape. I'm going to go get a coach, or I'm going to get a personal trainer, and I'm going to start working on myself, right? When I look good, I feel good, right? I can live a better life. Imagine if your imagine if your coach or your trainer or even your nutritionist, because this is open to the health, fitness, wellness, exercise, and nutrition space, the whole space. That's what we built it for, sporting teams, even if you were at the AIS. Breathwork isn't a skill that is well known broadly across all of those spaces. But imagine if you're getting in shape, if you've gotten out of shape, you've got a lot of stories on why that's happened, right? You might not be consistent with your training. You might not be consistent or honest with your nutrition. But let's say your coach has the breathwork skills to help collapse that when you get into fight or flight, when you get triggered, when your nervous system becomes dysregulated, when you decide to go tell little white lies on why you didn't track your nutrition, right? But your trainer, your coach, has the skills to bring you back into your parasympathetic so that we can be more honest with each other now. Let's say maybe you're going through some stuff or something sort of happened and your trainer or your coach has the ability to, today we're actually going to breathe, right? To allow you to not only self-regulate, but also release, let off some steam. TBR has been built up, designed for everything leading up to and just bumping up to trauma release. This is not trauma release. The fitness industry is not designed or has the capacity for trauma release. You want trauma release? That's something else. So everything else has been built for this. If all trainers, coaches, nutritionists, health and fitness professionals had this, if this was the classes, TBR classes were on the timetables of all gyms, sporting teams had this. Imagine before a football game. Imagine at halftime. Imagine you're down, right? And you are gassed, but your captain has the skills to bring you back. How would you perform with that?
But yeah, I think, I think a lot of people aren't, now, because I've been in that space with you for a while, I don't think people really understand the impact that, something like this can not only just have on their own health and fitness, but in their, their mental stability as well. I use breath work every day still. I forget that I use it every day because it's so normal to me. So when you do meet someone that doesn't do it, it's kind of like, they're like, what? But I'm like, this keeps me balanced, not only physically, mentally, and emotionally, but it helps me level out everything within my life, because there's many moments where it brings you back down to this state of like being here right now. And being here right now is really finding your presence and finding that center line of who you are and what you're about. And from there, you see answers, you get clarity, you get who you are, you see and feel and understand what is important right now, rather than having, because we can be so influenced about what's actually important from here. And sometimes the things we're worried about aren't actually the things we need to be worrying about. The things that have, out external, things that maybe influence us from our environments. And for me, just, listening to that and hearing this for the people that I understand, that's what breathwork's done for me consistently, day in, day out over the years. It's helped me make decisions. One thing, there's a lot of really good business decisions and ideas have come out of my breathwork. As me and you've known, you've done a breathwork and one, we've lived together, and you might come out and you're like, hey, I got this idea, and I'm like, shit, what is it? But you've just finished breathing. Like you going to, going to have that, let's speak business, let's breathe together, let's break it down. I think it's underestimated, and it's also one of those things where it's so simple it works. Obviously, going through it is, there's a technique and there's an understanding for it, but we have it here. You need to be trained on breathing right and understanding what breath is and how to use it to your advantage. And it's really one of those things I've used since I've got it and understood it, that I've never let go of. It's not a habit I've never let go of.
That what you just shared then is what we want, is the place that we would love people to get to, right? It's breathwork isn't always this yelling, screaming, thing, right? For the everyday person, mom, dad, the person that lives next door to you, the business owner, right, that's trying to build his business, the skill set that you just said then, right, is where we would love to get people to. Imagine what world it would be if people could do that for themselves.
Yeah. It's like
That's
above the line, below the line, as we've always discussed. Okay, trauma's down here, excitement and like this energy towards life. Having a breathwork system, having breathwork within your life, enables you to tap into that like higher level of consciousness, understanding as well. Which is why I even spoke about this the other day with Hannon, one of my bros. Like, I do like, a lot of breathwork visualization, and I actually made myself pass out the other day because I went so hard, but it wasn't in a bad way, but I was really getting into it. I think, having that, at the start of my week it balances me out. And it's one of those things I don't know if I could go without it now, because I can use it. You can use it anywhere. Once you learn, once you understand, I can do it. Mine's just here on this couch. I've done it in the car. I mean, we've done it in the bush. We've done it wherever. You can take it everywhere with you. It doesn't run out of batteries either. You might have your phone. You might need some music. If you're able to tap in, understand what breathing is, understand on how to use these modalities, it's something that you don't miss and you can take everywhere. And I think it gives you a massive advantage, just for your own personal health as well. I'm kind of very interested to see where this goes. One, for the impact that I know that you're making. Two, I just seeing it change, a lot of people's lives. And, I think a lot of people could maybe do with this a lot more, which is what we were trying to do years ago, but we couldn't reach that mass scale. So I know personally what kind of difference, a business like this would have on, I guess the community as a whole.
And I guess that's because what we built wasn't acceptable to all people. Yeah, it was too deep, right? And it's like, I will never stop doing that work, but how can this has never stopped with me. How can we make this more accessible to people? Well, what if we know how to dial it down and turn it up and expand it and break it down and chop it and change it, right? And if you think about, we've We've utilized 3 breaths. We've utilized 3 minutes. We've utilized 30 minutes, right? It doesn't matter how you put it together. You're always going something out of it.
I like it. I like it. I want to, because I'm going to wrap it up with a few like key questions that I want to know from Lino Hola is, who are you? Actually, it's a question I like to ask people now. Who is Lino Hola? Schiffer Lino Hola, actually, for those people who don't know.
A family man and a father, I think, is first and foremost the thing. And when I talk about fatherhood and as a father, I think it's that my role on this earth isn't simply just being or solely being a father to my own children, but I've also come to understand the impact that this role modeling of what being a father has on other fathers and has on other men as well, right? My daughter just turned 18. Our child is due February 2025. And I had this sense of a feeling that I'm just going to be a father forever. Then I asked myself, maybe that's the point. Value father so highly. And if you think about a lot of the challenges in the world and the problems in the world, think about the impact or the breakdown that the absence of a father has in a family's life, then also how challenging it can be for a lot of fathers that aren't with their children as well. So I think being a family man, being a father, being a role model, husband, family man, and father, I think that's a big part of why I'm here on this earth. And that's the job that I love the most.
It is a good, and I'd give you credit there as well. There's a lot of that mindset that I think hasn't, I guess, flowed over to me over the years of hanging around, not only yourself, but, I guess men that are really good fathers as well. Like I'd had conversations in the past with people like, are you afraid? Obviously, you don't have any kids, but are you afraid of being fathers? Like, not really, because I feel like I've got enough good role models around me, so I know what it looks like, what good and what great looks like in those polarities. So, yeah, I definitely feel like that shaped a lot of my beliefs around it as well, and experiencing people come to those workshops and realize we're a lot, like, it was one of the key points that we were like, holy shit, most of the issues that we're dealing with is, father son breakdowns were one of the biggest key issues that were, people were coming to with problems or trauma or having a lot of issues around, was that, father son connection. And I was like, holy shit. And it really highlighted a lot of those areas, why it's so important. And it just, for me, it made me obviously dive into the work a lot more and make sure that that's, I wasn't part of those statistics, and I was obviously holding up my end as well, because, having a good father figure, I'm fortunate enough to have a good father figure, definitely like yourself as well. So, and just instilling that not only in myself, but anyone else I come in touch with as well has been, I guess, really important, because it makes a big difference.
Oh, ridiculously. That question was asked to me was from a woman. What do I think is the most common thread that is a problem amongst men and women? I said, I'll be honest with you. I've never met a man or a woman that hasn't got daddy issues.
Yeah, me neither.
Right? So it's just men, not having maybe the role model, the father, whether he was there or he wasn't there. And then same thing, a breakdown in relationship, with women and their fathers as well. So yeah, there's a role other players in a family and in the community, massive.
Yeah, it's something I take really serious now.
And if that's all I have to do is be a phenomenal family man and a phenomenal husband and father, well, I love being all three of those things. So if that's what it is for me, and that's my role on this earth, I'm pretty cool with that, bro.
Yeah, me too. I've had this conversation too with people that, like, they know how many kids and stuff you want, and I'm like, look, I'll have as many as as I could possibly be blessed with. It's because I could I could have all this money and do all this business stuff and everything like that. I could have 10 supercars, whatever it is, but being able to lay there. If I'm fortunate enough to be in bed one day and die and have a bunch of kids around me that, like, hey, whatever I taught and everything that I could provide, and, they're good, respectable people without in the community. I feel like that's an achievement to go out with, rather than a bunch of shit that I could have acquired and bought. So I guess in the last couple of years, that's definitely something I've taken upon myself and been like, shit, that's what it's about. being in these communities, you know, like men's medicine, and understanding, you know, the breakdown and I guess the real core effects of what, you know, is holding a lot of people back, what, you know, where a lot of this trauma comes from not having that good, stable household, good, stable, you know, father figures as well. So that's what's influenced me the most, and, you know, why I've taken it on board so much, to make sure I'm representing myself and anyone else that may come in touch with me, and making sure I'm upholding those, you know, strong values as well.
Well, I
The
think you've done you carry on. I was going to say is I think you've done a great job at maintaining that that consistency and that alignment, right?
Yeah.
Like and you know, it really makes it really beautiful to have this conversation now that so much business has grown, you know, for each other and for ourselves since that time. And we get to come back together and let's talk shop.
Yeah, definitely. I said ages ago, years ago, I was like, shit, man, we'll meet up somewhere down the track. I'm still young. I'm like, you know, there'll be stuff that I go out and learn, and you never know. You never know. I want to ask with a couple more questions to finish it up. I always like to celebrate one wins. Is there anything that you can celebrate for with Lino Hola? Is there any wins or anything that you've got that may have happened recently?
That business is a big one. Yesterday, I received, like, my family have had a really great response to that. And yesterday, I shared it with Cooper Chapman this morning from the Good Human Factory. We were sharing gratitudes. And I said, you know, I received a message from my brother yesterday. And he just said, really proud of you, little man. And because all my family are bigger than me, right?
Yeah.
They're
You're
really,
6'2", aren't you?
yeah, I told my daughter, but I'm really proud of you, little man, just with all the work that you do. I don't think he's ever in my whole life ever said that. So when I read it over a couple of times, that one really, that one really sank with me. And I'm like, I'm doing a good thing, right? But I already knew I was doing a good thing. But when, you know, people you don't expect, especially people that matter to you, when that happened, that really meant a lot to me. Really proud of being able to put my daughter through private school, have her finish high school, have her turn 18. When she turned 18, I was emotional that whole day. And what I was really proud of was I raised a human from birth to 18. I was like, you did something. And then the very next day, my wife told me she was pregnant. So I was like, oh, here we go again. Right?
Double run.
Yeah. So I was really proud of raising my daughter. And then I'm proud to become a father one more time again.
Well, congrats, bro. For me, I know how much family means to you. So, as always, I know that you'll do a really good job, and you know, just proud of you as well. Just, you know, personally myself as well, for one, continuing what you're doing, and then always upholding, you know, what you're about out in the community. You know, I know it's not easy to stay out there and do what I do. Many have started, many have fallen off, but you've stayed consistent and you've stayed out there. And I actually want to touch on this one point, because I had this conversation a couple of days ago where I was speaking with someone about names and the importance of names and the importance of caring. And there's a really good factor that I can tell how much someone cares about people. And it's usually if they can remember people's names. And this is where, for me, I really got an insight to you and understood that you actually, the level of care that you not only have for yourself, but for everyone else, is that you never forgot anyone's name. And I brought this up in conversation the other day, and I was like, someone was like, oh, how do you know if someone cares? And I said, if they remember their names. I said, it's a really good play. And Lino Holla never forgot nobody's name. No matter how many people we had there, you always remembered everyone's name. And it's because the level of care that you show for everyone, and it's a real, you can't hide behind that, because you actually care about people, and you've always been about it as well. So just a kudos to you on that one.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Look, this is what I say to our facilitators. Your only job is to pay attention. That's it. There is nothing else. Right? I said, if you wonder why I can say the things that I say and how can I remember the things that I remember, because my only job is to listen to you, to hear you. And if I'm not listening, if you're not listening, then what are you doing?
Yeah. I always say this. I'm like, don't listen to respond, listen to understand. Then the next question is always given in the answer beforehand.
It is.
It
I love
is.
that.
Sweet brother. Well, let's wrap it up. It's 50 minutes. I hope everyone's had a beautiful time. Len, was there anything else that you want to leave us with?
Love on your family is pretty much all I'm going to leave you with. right? Like life was made to be shared. And if it wasn't, what's the point of all these other people? So
Definitely.
family, loving your partner, loving your kids, your parents, all of that stuff.
No worries, brother. Cheers. Appreciate you, man. As always, respect. And I'll see you out there. Peace, everybody. Thank you.
Big love.
See ya.